friends, welcome back to my studio. I hope you're well. As you can see, the studio is all set up. I'm having the open studios going at the moment, and because it is set up in kind of a gallery state, I can't work in here and start splashing paint around. So what I thought I would do is, as you've seen in the title, a part 2 of the gel plate making, of how to reconstitute your gel plate when the surface starts to wear and you get little divots and things in it that start showing up in your prints. You can just remelt this and pour it again to create another gel plate. And the reason why I'm doing this now is you can see the poor state of my gel plate. I managed to the plate up like this, and I'll show you the footage of it. And I am rambling on and on and on, and I've got this gel plate perched in my hand with it bent like this. I don't know why. I guess I was involved in trying to share what I was sharing and didn't realize that I'd had the gel plate in this position for so long. And you can see just there it starts to tear, and it's torn in the exact pattern that my hand was holding it. And it's unfortunately the print's size that I was doing, it's torn, not quite big enough. I could have used this for a while longer, but yeah, a bit of a whoops. But it does give me an opportunity. I've got this older plate that I made that you can see is, hopefully the camera, yeah, see how it's not as see-through. This one I have already melted down once before and remolded. And when you do that, you can see it's not as transparent, which really makes no difference to the plate, except that this is a little firmer than this fresh first poured one. To avoid this, if you'd like it as soft, you can add a little bit of water into the mix. But as you can see from this, this is perfectly fine. I've done prints on this. These prints here were done on that little square. It was square, I've cut some off it, but I've printed on that and it's behaved perfectly fine. These are the prints that I made off the newer plate. So you can see there's really no difference to the quality. It's just a little bit of a firmer surface. So if you melt it down and you're finding it's too firm, remelt it, add a little bit of water in it. It will be less each time that you do melt it down and reset it, which is why this time I'm going to melt them all in the 2 plates in to make one, because I went and bought a proper tray. As you would have seen in the how to make a gel plate vlog, I found it, because it was such a deep tray or deep dish, I found it very hard to get into the corner and lift that plate out. And being a nice shallow, this has got a little bit of a wobble. I'm hoping I'll be able to just set it down straight on the table. But this will be much easier to get the plate out from. And it gives me a nice, this is an A3 pad, and it'll give me plenty of room on that to fit an A3 sheet. Or I can do, whoops, put the wrong thing down. This is A4. Oh, I can get two halves of an A4 sheet going. So it's a really, really simple process. Let's turn the camera around and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, here's our plate, and it's as simple as cutting. These are dressmaking scissors, but any scissors will work. And you just want this kind of 1 centimeter square, roughly, cube. If there's anything stuck to it, try and get rid of that. There's a little paint on that one. So cut it all up. Okay, here is all of those 2 gel plates cut up. And I know it can be really scary to be slicing up a plate. Definitely do not do this to the branded jelly plate. They have different ingredients in them to this homemade recipe that I gave you. Do not do to those. They will not reconstitute like this. I believe they have an additive that makes them a little bit firmer and longer lasting than these. These are softer, and you can certainly do this to this homemade one, but don't do it to the branded jelly plate. You can add up to a cup to that original recipe that I gave you, but you can't take the water out, of course, once it's in. So I would be adding small amounts as you go, and it'll be a little bit of trial and error for your own plate. So let's take this into the kitchen, and we're just going to microwave this to soften it. Okay, I've come into the kitchen. Now I've decided I'm going to put 1/3 of a cup of water in this mix. As I said earlier, if you don't add any water, the plate will shrink in size from the original size. And now we're just going to microwave this in bursts until it's completely melted. This is our mix after 2 minutes on high, and you can see some of it has started to break down. This is the mix after 6 minutes, and it's quite warm. When you're stirring, try not to get too many bubbles in there like the first time when you made it. It's still a little bit gloopy. You want all of that to be liquid. You don't want that wiry gloop. Hope that's showing up, because it will set differently. So you want it all completely liquid, not this kind of, can you see there, it's still got some stringy gloop. You want it all completely liquid like that. Here we are, that's been 20 minutes, and there's a few little lumps floating around in there, which may have been the gelatin that didn't quite dissolve in the first time because I didn't have the water hot enough. So I think that's, for the sake of the video, good enough. So yeah, hope you can see that it's all back to liquid. And it's looking fairly clear. Can't see against the timber bench, but perhaps you can see better there that it's another way to tell you've got enough water and that you've got the lumps out, that it's looking pretty clear. So I'm going to pour this in the tray back in the studio, because while this is setting for at least overnight, I don't want any cat prints in it, and I'm sure a cat doesn't want gelatin on its paw. So I'll meet you back in the studio. Okay, back in the studio with our mixture. And here's the tray I'm going to use. And when I took the label off, unfortunately I've noticed it's got the brand embossed in the center there, and the gelatin will mold around that, and I will get a little mark of the maker's mark in this plate. Now, it shouldn't affect it if I'm printing on this up side, But if I flip the plate over and want to print on this side, this will definitely upset it. On the other side, I will be able to use, you know, I can do this size print on either side of the plate. But if I'm doing a big sheet, I'll have to use the upper side. So it's almost turning into a what not to do video. But try and get a tray that hasn't got this mark, and then you'll be able to use both sides of your plate. So it's just a matter of pouring this, making sure it's perfectly clean, and trying to pour your mix in the same as original without too many splashes. And I can see I haven't quite got a level surface here, so I'm just going to prop that corner up. I find these icy pole sticks are great for just tweaking that. Yeah, I think we'll need to come up too. Having a level surface is going to be really helpful. There's a few more lumps in there than I could see in the kitchen, so I'm just trying to strain them out. But we're pretty much at the top of the tray anyway. We'll get some towel and get rid of those bubbles. So same as when you're making it, the original plate is with some newsprint. This is shop towel. Just skimming the surface helps push those bubbles over to the edge, and you can kind of lift them out like that. Because any uneven surface is going to upset your print. And I've got a couple of gloops there, which is why to not have any lumps in it. So we'll just move them to where they won't be in the way of the print. Now this will start to harden. I can see that starting to go off now, so I'm only going to cause the surface to be more upset if I continue to play with that. So that's our window. That's all we can do with that. That's going to be as good as it gets. So you can see the mixture is nice and clear. So that's had 2/3 of a cup of water added to it. I can, unfortunately, this maker's mark that's in the bottom there, I can read that very clearly. So I think it's got enough water in it, and it's made up enough for me to have this full tray worth. Now, because this tray is bigger than the previous video I showed you, this will be a thinner plate. Again, it shouldn't affect any of your printing that you do, and I will have to be more careful about moving it and handling it, that it's probably going to be a little bit more prone to tearing because it's thinner. So when this is cured, I will come back and show you removing it from the tray and what it looks like. And here I am back with the absolutely cured and dry gel plate. I filmed the first part of this on Tuesday afternoon and it's now Thursday morning, so it's had plenty of time to set. Take out all of these, and as I showed you in the first one, it's just a matter of, can you see how that lifts off? And it's as easy as that to pull out. I'll get my, this is a sheet of acetate that I like to keep the plate on. It helps keep it clean and it doesn't then stick to anything else. So yeah, we've got a lovely, that definitely picked up, and I can feel that it's definitely embossed. Don't know if the camera's picking that up. So yes, I'll only be able to print on this side of the plate, or as I said, either side of that mark. The other thing I decided to do, rather than waste that mix that I had left, I've got this cute little dish. So you can see that's the bit that had all the lumps. It's a little bit mottled on the surface. Let's see if I can get this out. There we go. So it's really hard to get the fingers in there and show you, but you're really just pressing on the edge, and it, when you do that, it bends up and then you can just pull it out from there. So that's actually really lovely on the side that was against the ceramic dish. And that feels, it's a little bit, looks a little bit mottled, but it's actually feeling quite smooth. And I thought this would be a really good size for printing on these cards. These are jumbo size playing cards, and I just put a bit of gesso on them, and I've just used some stencil. So yeah, I think that size plate's going to be perfect for doing those. That's another great thing of making your own plate, that you can mix up the different sizes that you like. If you prefer to work in a square format, it's just a matter of getting a square mold, and you can make any size plate that you really like. So I will keep that with another piece of acetate over the top, and I'll need to find some for that one. So there we go, there's part 2 on how to reconstitute your gel plate. If you've enjoyed this, please consider subscribing. I hope you have a lovely week, and I shall see you next week. Bye.